Welcome to the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. This show is brought to you by Oakley Trucking, headquartered in North Little Rock, Arkansas. The purpose of this podcast is to communicate with Oakley owner-operators and their families by giving them up-to-date information concerning Oakley trucking and the trucking industry, from business advice to safety updates to success stories. Also to give an insight to outside truck drivers that might be interested in joining the Oakley family. Hi, I'm Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. This is episode 20. On today's podcast, we're going to talk to Carson and Dustin Barnett, who is in our safety department here at Oakley Trucking. We're going to discuss what to do if you're involved in an accident and the important role your cameras play if this occurs, and just the do's and don'ts and the protocol for when you are involved in an accident. We got some really good information. We got some examples of some accidents that we've had in the past and the outcomes that we've had. And I think it'll be very interesting to our owner-operators and their families to learn from that. So stay tuned to that here in just a little bit. But first, I'd sure like to say thanks to everybody listening to this podcast. We appreciate your input that we're getting every week. Please keep it coming. Share this stuff with a friend. Make sure all our owner-operators are listening to it the best you can. We send it out. It comes out every Wednesday. A new one comes out every Wednesday morning. And we email it to all of our owner-operators and a bunch of other people too. So I encourage you to listen to some of the old podcasts. If you're, listening for the first time, we've got some good information on some old podcasts that we've done. That tells a lot about the company and some things we're doing here from the shop to things we're doing with the shop. I mean, Toby had some real good information to our trailers and talking to the people at Mac Trailers all the way to safety. We had another safety episode before too. So we've got some good information. I encourage y'all to listen to our old podcast. But first, before we get started on accidents, let's hear from Vickie Chastain on this week's Need to Know segment.
You never think it's going to happen to you, but you have probably had some close calls out on the road due to various reasons. Accidents, that's this week's Need to Know segment. Statistically, distracted driving and speeding are the two main causes of accidents in commercial motor vehicles. Accidents in commercial motor vehicles are more prone to cause severe damage to an individual than a personal vehicle. Unfortunately, there is no surefire way to prevent accidents from occurring, but by doing your part in not speeding and staying alert, you can decrease the risk of an accident. I am Vickie Chastain, and that's this week's Need to Know segment.
Okay, guys, let's get cranked up and started on these accidents and the protocol for what guys are supposed to do with an accident. I got Carson, safety director, second time here. Hey, Roger, what's up?
Glad to be here, brother.
And I got Dustin Barnett, his sidekick.
Yes, sir.
Safety manager. How you doing, Barnett?
Hey, doing great today. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. Glad to have you guys. I appreciate y'all coming in here and giving our owner-operators some good information. We've been talking about doing this since the last time me and Roger did a podcast on general safety. We thought, we got done with that, and we said, man, we really need to do a couple more of these because there's some good information that we want to share with owner-operators on things. And we figured this one on accidents and what all it entails. So we're not sure. This may be a lengthy episode. We got to talking about it before, so we may talk a while here. We're not sure if it's going to be one or turn into two, but just depends on what we get involved in here because we think it's some good information for you guys to understand. So what do we want to start off with first, guys? You want to start off with what happens, what does an owner-operator need to do when he has an accident? Is that where you want to start?
Yeah, let's start off with reporting an accident.
Reporting an accident, all right. You want to take that?
Go ahead, Dustin.
Okay. So, yes, sir. So, depending on the severity of the accident is going to determine the process. If it's pretty severe, of course, we're not going to ask our owner-operators a lot of steps to take. Our first and foremost question that we're going to check on their driver. I know if they are involved in an accident, they have their adrenaline up. They're not really sometimes thinking clearly. So we ask that they call safety first and foremost. they contact either Roger or myself, and we can start doing the behind the scenes office work just to make sure all the documentation is being captured that's needed.
Yeah, because I'm sure when a guy has an accident, like you said, he's jacked up, he's amped up and scared and nervous. So you got to probably spend your first few minutes calming him down and seeing how severe the accident is so you can go from there.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
So once we verify that they're fine, then we might start kind of laying out some direction and some steps and protocol that we want him to take. First and foremost, if the tractor didn't decelerate at a rate of 9 miles an hour a second or greater, it didn't initiate a critical event on their dash cam. So we may ask them to manually go over there, click critical event. That way it does a timestamp for safety department to review over. And
on the dash cam?
Yeah.
On the AVG unit itself.
On the unit. Okay.
Yes,
So, okay. So if it wasn't hard braking or something like that, it didn't catch it, didn't flag it as a, I got you.
Yeah. And we can get more detailed on the cameras later, but it's still captured as far as on the micro SD card. There's still an 8-day loop, so the video is there. It just allows our department to kind of get a hold of that information quickly and view that dash cam.
Oh, so you're not viewing so much of the video trying to figure out when it happened?
Yes, sir.
Basically, yeah, they hit a button and that alerts you to know that's where to look. Is that
It
right?
will send us an email, Jeremy,
Okay.
at that time that he initiated the critical event manually. And a lot of times, you'll ask that question, well, when did it happen? He said, man, it was just 10 minutes ago. Well, we're 45 minutes back looking for it.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, it's a little tricky. It's great if you get a hard break because then it's done exactly when it happens.
You can see.
Right. But if it's a manual, a lot of times we may spend 30, 40 minutes trying to find it
Gotcha.
because it's not,
And
time
sometimes
lapse.
is time critical on that? I mean, does a policeman need to see that right then or something?
Sometimes they'll ask for it
Oh, yeah.
to help investigate the accident, make a determination, whether who's at fault or, what took place.
Okay. So
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and so it is critical sometimes at that point. I mean, we have not so much, but I mean, we get a lot of positive comments from the officers that we have them in there. Makes their job a lot easier because they're not there when it happens. So they're having to, ask questions,
Try to figure it out.
trying to figure out what took place. Well, if you can pop that video on them,
Tells a lot, doesn't
it tells a lot real quick.
Yeah.
It saves them a lot of, just questions.
Yeah. You can see what happened.
Right. And it kind of does away with the he said, she said.
Yeah.
And that's worth, that's worth having them.
Have we had some specific incidents, that you can think of that they were saying we were wrong, our owner operator was at fault, and then we send the video and we see that it wasn't our fault, it was their fault?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I have a pretty good example. It happened in Florida probably back in March. Driving down the road, there was a passerby driving on the right side, trying to pass our tractor. They went left to center, made contact with his tractor. So they pulled off the road. The owner operator got out. And of course, the first thing that lady said was, why'd you hit me? You hit me. Why did you do this? And kind of questioning, kind of putting the blame on him. He kind of stepped back, got into his truck, kind of told me what was going on. So I pulled some dash cam video and was able to save that video prior to the authorities making it there. And once they kind of responded on the scene, they got one of their email addresses, sent the video. In this case, there was no question that she did go left to center.
Wow.
There's no exposure on Oakley's part. And once it's kind of ironic the way you look at it because they all are huddled around. He's watching it on his laptop. And after they watch the video, the lady looks at our driver and she apologizes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was pretty cool, only for the fact that it's not going to be misreported on the police report. He said, she said, and then also too having her apologize to our driver for, I don't know if she just was lying about it or if she just didn't recall what happened. So it just makes things a lot more clear.
How did you see that if it's behind the camera?
Well, in this case, she made contact and lane changed in his passenger side
okay.
fender.
So you could see the right.
So yeah, with that, the way the position of the camera is on that passenger side, you could see on that right side fender.
And a lot of times, Jeremy, we look in the mirrors. We look in the fender mirrors.
You can see what happened.
You can see in the mirror what took place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and so these cameras are forward facing, but yet again, if they've got spot mirrors on their fenders, we can see down the sides of the truck.
That's helped before?
Oh yeah, you
Really?
bet. Especially in like a lane change or anything like that. Because the other thing is, in a lane change, if we can't see the vehicle that struck us, or vice versa, it will show that we didn't divert out of our lane. We stayed in the lane. So how did we get over to hit you if we never left our lane?
Yeah.
So,
Never left our lane. You can see that in the mirror.
well, no, you can see it. Just
Yeah.
the
good.
camera catches. I think the camera's 140 degrees, so it pretty well catches the both fenders. So you've got a real good, wide view. With that camera.
Important to have the camera working.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And
Yeah.
kind of hitting on that point too with that spot mirror, it's really beneficial because if you're at a intersection, let's say it's right hand only lane, we've had several where four-wheelers have tried squeezing up beside our guy to make that right hand turn, not realizing that he's impeding the entire right hand lane. And then once we take off, the trailer ends up striking their driver's side of their fender and hood. So, and in that spot mirror, you can see it clear as day, that car trying to
Squeeze in there.
Squeeze in there. Yes, sir.
Can't quite make it. And then you get a call and your driver ran over me.
Well, Jeremy, and yes, that happens. And here's the bad thing about that right hand turn. And and we try to school the guys on that. When you're making a right hand turn, if you split that lane and you hit a vehicle, you're at fault because you're out of your lane.
Mm.
And the old train of thought is you make your turn out in the intersection. And we've had several.
Keep the
of those.
trailer in the lane.
We're
Oh,
supposed to keep them both in the lane.
Oh, my.
And it's real tight in certain circumstances because, a lot of these streets were built,
Yeah, that's not possible.
50, 60 years ago, and we didn't have 300-inch tractors and 55-foot trailers. So
Right.
it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to make that maneuver.
Well, I think, cameras that, I know it wasn't what we was exactly going to start out talking about, but that makes a big difference when, we had a lot of pushback when we started putting these cameras in. And I think now we've seen how big a plus that's been for us when it's caused accidents have been involved. I mean, it just makes a big difference. So our owner operators need to know to make sure the camera's working. What do you need to tell them? Any thing that we're seeing regularly that the camera's messing up or our guys are not using it or turning it on, or are they all pretty much compliant with the cameras?
So yes, sir. Yeah, all our owner operators are pretty compliant. Those cameras are hardwired in, so they're constantly recording on an 8-day loop, even if the tractor's off. So we don't have any issue really with tampering. What we are having some recent problems with is the SD cards going out. So you can imagine on a micro SD card, there's so much data 24/7 being overwritten and saved on that card. So we've seen that they wear out just like anything else. It gets hot and then it malfunctions. So they're saying, kind of contacted OmniTrax, there's about a 2-year lifespan on those SD cards. So if you know that it's been on almost that 2-year mark since that's been installed, maybe start watching to make sure that your camera is paired and that you have the camera icon on the top of the screen on your IVG. You'll see that on the top banner, and that's a good indication that your camera's paired and it's operating. We have Matt Clanton in our safety department currently working over a camera health report. So pretty much daily, he's reviewing over that report to see when a camera's SD card is faulty.
Okay.
And we're sending that list out to dispatch and trying to get those drivers in as soon as possible to make sure we can swap out that micro SD card.
We provide the SD cards to them.
We do. Yes, sir.
We just need to get it swapped out.
Yeah. And we have them at all 3 of our locations as well. So if you're not necessarily just here in North Little Rock, if you're at our other terminals as well, they can go ahead and swap those SD cards out for you.
Okay. So got off on cameras. We know how important they are now. We need to make sure, you guys need to make sure they're working, and you change out your SD card after at least before 2 years. And we got somebody, Matt's calling, checking to make sure if you're having a problem with it, we get you a new one, and we'll either send it to you or come in here and get one, I guess, either way.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure they're working. So cameras are important. I tell you, I know Roger has used them a lot in cases, when they've been very helpful. So keep your camera up and working good. So back on having an accident. So they need to call. First thing you need to, if it's not a major accident, somebody's really hurt, I guess they need to call safety first, day or night.
Right. Irregardless whether it's
Bad or not,
they need to contact us.
Okay.
And, it's 7/24 on that.
Why is the sooner the better?
Well, the sooner, we get the information and, before the driver leaves, the officer leaves, or, the other people involved leave, we got to have all that information to investigate, what really took place. And, what's real critical for us, and, and I teach this in orientation as well, that, we need a name and a phone number of anyone involved. And we like to get it before the police show up.
Okay.
And now, people say, well, why do you want to do that? Well, here's why. If we don't get that and, before that, and the officer says, well, all that information, because we tell them to ask for it, all that information you're wanting is going to be on the police report.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's great if we get it the next day. But it could be 10 to 15 days before we receive the police report.
So during a lot can happen during that 10 to 15 days.
Well, here's the thing. You could imagine if I'd hit your vehicle and I was at fault and you're sitting at home waiting on me to call you, and I don't know who you are and I don't have your number.
Yeah.
And so you would be getting irate and upset because, we're not taking care of it,
And the quicker to try to take care of this after the accident happens seems to be the better. That's the goal there.
Well,
to try to.
That's the end goal, yes. And, but the main thing is, we ask our guys to try to get their name and phone number. And,
Okay.
because we're going to make contact with them as soon as possible to try to, mitigate their damages or injuries, what have you. And, rather than them not hear for us from 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because when we get the police report, Jeremy, 90% of the time their phone number is not on it. They got an address. So now we got to mail them a letter that may take 5 to 6 days for that letter to get to
So
them.
in some cases we're trying to find out who was involved in the accident with us.
That's right.
And you can't find out. So it's best that our guy gets that information, name and phone number, as soon as he can.
Yes. That's as critical as getting pictures and, other stuff. Because
you don't think about that later that, man, I don't know who to contact. I'd like to call somebody and check on them or see what kind of damage it is, or can we get this resolved, and you can't get a hold of him. You don't know who to call. I got you. Yeah, I didn't realize that either. So that's good. So get the information of everybody there, name and phone number.
Photos, pictures of damage to vehicles. We always try to get them to take pictures of the layout of the scene, kind of just stand back and take a picture of the scene. And, a lot of times you'll see things that, you won't see on the camera,
Yeah.
So it kind of helps, with our investigation.
Yeah, and capture any debris that's laying around as well before it's tampered with. That kind of helps a lot. And with those
stuff in the ditches, or what do you mean debris?
Yes, sir. Yeah, stuff in the ditches, something that might be in the tailgate of that truck that flew off into the ditch, or something along those lines that might have assist in our investigation on what exactly took place.
Okay.
And a lot of times the debris field will determine where the impact was made.
Okay.
They could say, well, we came over and hit them, but the debris field's in our lane, not in their lane.
Right.
See,
so pictures are real good. Get plenty of pictures.
Yep. Close up and kind of step back a few steps. I know I've gotten several come in where they're just scratches on a bumper, but you really can't make out where exactly the placement of that scratch. So just make sure to get close up and step back a little bit and get some clear pictures of the damage.
I mean, that's all it comes down to, isn't it? I mean, after the accident happens, is video and pictures.
Well, yeah, and whatever information they can gather. And then, then what we ask them to do after they've gathered all that stuff is to send it through TransFlow, through our accident app. Because, they can just take pictures of everything and just send it to us, and we'll have it right then, not having to wait for them to come in or anything like that.
No, don't. You mean you don't have to take them to Walmart and get them developed anymore?
Yeah.
Remember those guys?
Oh, God, I remember them days, man. You go down there, and it may take a week for you to get your pictures. I'm telling you, that's these dash cams and, these cameras on these phones have really expedited, the process of, investigating these accidents.
Yeah, I bet it has made a big difference. So you get your pictures, get them transflowed in. Then what's our driver's next step? Will he have to drug test?
He'll once you get all that information you transflowed into us while you're still there at the scene, call us, tell us what happened, what the authorities told you. Were there any citations written? Did you get any roadside inspections? So if it's a DOT recordable accident, so if there's a tow away from the scene, if there is a bodily injury where they've had to transport them to the hospital, or if there's a fatality of any kind. So for two of those parameters, the first two, the ambulance, if someone takes them away with an ambulance, or if there's a tow away and our driver receives a citation as a causing factor resulting from that accident, then he would need to be set up for a post-accident drug and alcohol test.
How do we do that?
So we actually use a system called FormFox now, and there's also a separate one with a Quest Diagnostics Center. So we can get online, submit that request to a local facility there that's nearby, and our driver is emailed a copy of that chain of custody. He reports to that facility. They scan the barcode. All that information's pre-filled in by our office here, and then he conducts the test.
Okay. That's pretty simple. You find the nearest place you can get, because you only got how long? 8 hours?
You got 32 hours.
Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For a drug test, you only have 8 hours for an alcohol test.
I got you. Okay.
Kind of time sensitive there. So.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they do that. We determine whether they need to go do that or not. And then I guess a lot of times you are sitting around waiting for the police report, but are we trying to get with the other person that was involved in the accident and trying to get it done?
If we got the information, if you
got the info in it,
and
right.
But let's say we do. Let's say we do have the information. We're going to contact them, and if it's our fault, we're going to tell them to go get us a couple estimates, and if they need a rental, we'll put them in a rental. If they feel they're injured, go get checked out, and we'll try to mitigate their damages and resolve it, get us a release as quick as we can.
Yeah.
But we're just if we're wrong, we want to take care of it.
Sure.
And then for the driver, if he's got damages to his truck, a lot of times guys never been involved in an accident and they don't know what to do, so we'll try to help guide them through that process of reporting a claim to their PD insurance,
right,
and the process of what it takes to get that done.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately, a lot of guys are not prepared for an accident. I mean, are any of us really prepared for an accident? Because I've seen that too, where our guys have accidents and their truck's down for a while.
Oh yeah,
and they're down. If they're down, they're not making any money, so it creates a problem. So something you guys need to think about. Nobody thinks they're going to be in an accident, of course, every day, and it happens. So you got to be prepared for that kind of stuff if you have a bad one, because it's always a shocker. Aren't they always shocked when they have an accident?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It's never expected.
Never expected it.
They don't wake up planning on having one.
Of course not.
It just, and in about 3 or 4 seconds, it's all over.
Yeah. It's yeah. Then you're going, what happened? And trying to backtrack, and everything's picked apart at that point. Prior to that, I guess, for the most part. I mean, that's I know dealing with attorneys. So when you try to resolve the accident, we're trying to resolve it before attorneys get to them, and because we all know a trucking company has a bullseye on them, right?
Yeah.
We're always guilty. We got to prove our innocence, right? I mean, that's not the way it's supposed to be, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
We're guilty as a trucking company, and we got to prove our innocence with dash cams, with pictures, with anything we can get. So I understand we're trying to solve the case, get the release signed before attorneys even get in touch with we'll say the victim in a case, we were wrong or something. So we're trying to get that thing resolved before then.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, it doesn't always go that easy, and Dustin and I, we've settled a few that we've been able to get a hold of immediately. And I mean, I'm just talking fender benders. You're not going to resolve a major accident, injury over the phone on the first call.
But the majority of our accidents, I'm assuming, are fender benders.
A lot of them are, yeah. And the bad thing about it is we have spent a lot of money on minor accidents.
You got any examples?
Oh gosh.
Where do we start?
Especially,
I got a file cabinet full of examples.
Somebody thinking, especially because the owner operators, and we are too, going, look, man, I just barely scratched the bumper, and it turned into what? Y'all got an example? Give everybody,
I can tell
our
you
listeners,
one
an example.
happened right here on Broadway. I mean, and this has been probably 12, 13 years ago. We put a dent in this girl's little Mustang about the size of $50. And
what do we do? Hit her at a stop sign or something?
Traffic stopped, and we stopped, and traffic took off. She didn't, and we did, and bumped her.
Okay.
And, Ron Davis and I went down there to the scene, and we looked at it and said, go get us an estimate and that, and call us back. Well, I kid you not, 4 hours later, we're hearing from this lawyer whose billboard was just down the street from where this happened.
Oh, man.
And the next thing we know, lo and behold, she's injured. Both of them are injured. And, we paid in the neighborhood of $40,000 for
my
a
gosh.
ding on a bumper.
Because they got an attorney.
Right. And, and what happens is, you see them, running these meds up, because,
doctor bills. And
oh, yeah, because a lot of times, the more the meds are run up, they more they run the meds up, the more valuable the case is. We just, we just want to pay. If we did something wrong, we want to pay for what we did wrong. And that's it.
And there is no $40,000 bumper that I know of.
No, not on a Mustang. Now on a Chevy, maybe.
Man, yeah, that's frustrating when that happens. Did you have something you want to throw in, Barnett?
No, sir. No, that pretty much hits. I know there's a lot of examples we can give with minor things that kind of turn into major claims. And of course, whenever you hire defense counsel and attorneys, that gets costly on our end as well, as far as expenses go. And unfortunately, the days of meeting honest folks that just want to be compensated for the damages that were caused are kind of becoming less and less. So we're always gearing up to expect those even minor claims to possibly have an attorney representative and go on to.
Yeah, that's frustrating when that happens because I know dealing with attorneys can be a challenge in itself, because I guess you're having to. This is something that I don't think about, and probably the owner operators, but every state can be different.
True.
In the process, if you have an accident in a state, you say, "Oh no, that's in state so and so," and that's because it's probably worse than another state. I'm assuming that happens.
Yeah, I can name you 4, but I'm not.
Well, you should probably. I mean,
all right. Number 1, Louisiana. Number 2, Texas. Number 3, Arkansas. And number 4 would be probably, it's a toss-up between Oklahoma and Mississippi.
Really? Boy, we run a lot in those states.
and there you go. And mileage has a lot to do with it. Texas, in our annual mileage, we probably run close to 18, 20 million miles in Texas a year.
You're just saying those states are a little more difficult to win a case, or just difficult for the process?
It's
just don't have an accident in those states.
Yeah, they're kind of, anti-truck. I mean, and I say that, it's just that a little more liberal than conservative.
Huh. You wouldn't think that, but I guess.
Well, you wouldn't think in Texas, but now I will give Louisiana, thumbs up, because I believe their legislation just passed tort reform here a few weeks back, which is going to help. And a lot of that came about, we had 2 cases down there, and I think there was a total of 15 where there was fraudulent claims, and it was brought up and found to be, I think there was a chiropractor involved, a doctor. And
it was a scam type deal.
Scam deals,
I read about
claims.
that.
Oh, yeah, it was in Transport Topics and that.
Involved a judge or something.
Well,
or maybe
I don't know if it got, I don't know if it got to a judge, but, there was a law firm involved.
That's what it was.
And a chiropractor
That's
involved.
what it was.
And, the FBI got involved, and they were able to resolve it. I mean, we had a case trial set, and the 4 individuals didn't show up. And then they pushed it. I think they pushed it for a year. They had a chance to come back within a year, and they never came back. Of course, that one guy, the one guy that was involved in 2 of ours, he had had 28 accidents in 2 years.
Oh my gosh. I mean, surely somebody can see that that's not possible.
And there again, kudos for the legislation in Louisiana, because I think this incident involving, this fraud is what brought forth our tort reform. So,
which is a cap. You were telling me earlier it's a cap on. I didn't look that up.
I hadn't really, looked into it as far as what all it entails.
Okay,
but it's a positive move, and there's several other states have done that as well.
Okay, so. All right, just to recap real quick, we're talking to Roger Carson and Dustin Barnett with our safety department here at Oakley Trucking. We're talking the protocol for if you have an accident for our owner operators on what to do, and we've got some good stuff, good information, some even good examples that we've said here that I hope get your attention and makes you a better driver and know what to do in these certain areas, because as soon as you think it's not you, it's not going to happen to you, that's when it'll reach up and bite you. And you just got to be prepared, and hopefully it never does. But because I tell you, as a company, we got a great safety rating. We got a great safety department. We got just a good company that, and most of all, we got some fantastic owner operators that are safe drivers.
Yeah.
You know, can you imagine working at a place that didn't have safe drivers? There's a lot of places out there that do, and you know, even the recruiting department checks that out before they come in here. So we try to get the best guys we can, and of course we know we do. But when you got 870 of them, I mean, you're going to have an accident. What, every week?
Oh, there's something, you know. Yeah, I can remember when Ron Davis and I'm talking back in the early 2000s, we was kind of sitting back there like the Maytag repairman.
Yeah.
You know, we may not have an accident for 2 weeks.
That was nice.
You bet. It'd be great if that was that way again. But, I mean, you know, but it's just so much traffic out there. Plus, you know, back then we wasn't running 20 million miles a year. Well, now we're bumping 80 million miles a year. And, you know, the more miles you run, you know, the greater the odds it's going to happen.
What do you see? What do you guys see? Either one of you, both of you can answer. What's the biggest cause of an accident?
I think Roger will hit on this one too, but I'll say distracted driving, both on the other party and unfortunately sometimes on our owner operator.
That's a wide span there, Barnett.
It
You're
is.
going to have to narrow that down a little bit. I mean, I'd say most people are distracted the whole time they're driving. But
yeah,
specifically, what do you think?
I say cell phones for sure. Sometimes whenever they're looking up directions or maybe looking at some paperwork while they're driving, kind of anything that's going to be taking your attention away from the road. And that's even with hands-free. Sometimes if you're on a conversation, you're talking, you're interested in that conversation, you are legal to do that, but your mind's kind of thinking about other things. You're thinking about that conversation who you're speaking to, whether it be your wife or your friend, and that can kind of pull your attention away from the road and slow your reaction time. So a lot of our hard braking events and accidents, we see that there's some phone conversation going on.
Man, that's it's hard to stay off that device. I know it is, but distracted driving, well, on that phone can just, I'm assuming that's the first thing a police officer thinks, isn't it, Roger?
Well, I can guarantee it's the first thing a lawyer's going to ask for. He's going to subpoena their phone records, and then he's going to subpoena that ECM in that truck. And
really?
Oh, yeah. And, you know, they'll do a download of the ECM, which will depict, you know, their speed, when they braked or if they braked. And, you know, they can go back to right when it happened. Same way with the cell phone use. They can go back and match it to the ECM when he braked for the accident, and then they're going to look to see if he was on the phone at the time of the accident. And then they're going to try to tag them for distracted driving. And we've had several of those over the years.
Have we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Probably one of the biggest ones I've had was in San Antonio, and a gentleman was on the phone, and it was Christmas Eve.
Our guy was on the phone?
Our guy was on the phone. And he was looking ahead, but he just wasn't cognitive of what was going on. He just, you know, he was in la-la land on the phone, and he just run up on this pickup. I mean, just smacked him in the tail end.
Going down the interstate?
Going down the road.
2-lane road? Or?
Interstate, San Antonio.
Golly.
And that was probably one of the largest suits, you know.
They were just going slow, I guess, or
No.
not?
No. He was just driving down the road and just clipped him.
Oh.
Just run up on him.
Hmm.
But like I said, there again, like Dustin said, distracted guys that we view on dash cam footage, at red lights, at traffic, a lot of times when when we pull those up, they're talking on the phone. And that just goes to what we're saying.
Yeah.
Phone's a great tool. I mean, I started trucking back in the 70s, and I wish when I blew that tire out in West Texas, I'd had a cell phone so I could have called somebody.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting on somebody to come by and stop.
Yeah.
So, but, and as far as, getting directions and, like I say, it's a tool for the industry, but yet again, you can use it, can be used against you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something they're going to check. That's one of the first things they're going to check. What's a second? Speeding? Do you find most of it?
Following too close.
Following too close, yeah.
You see a lot of that, but probably lane changes is going to be right up there, probably number 2. Guys just, they start moving to the right or left before they look to see if it's clear, and you can look, they get in that blind spot. You put these little Kias, it's about the size of a souped up go-kart out there, and you got a big hooded Pete, and you're sitting on the floor, you ain't gonna see that car.
Right.
Or it could be a Kenworth too, so I'm not gonna just pick on Pete guys.
Not using that spot mirror, that's what it is.
Well, yeah, that as well. But now sometimes, they can, a vehicle can get in front of that spot mirror, because usually that spot mirror is about midway on the fender. Well, he can be just up ahead of that a little bit, and you won't see him in the spot mirror.
Yeah.
And then, he'll be in that blind spot of that hood, and you won't see him when you're, moving over.
Right.
But
what's some of the, I guess, some of the shockers we've had that I think we should share with our owner-operators? Maybe a verdict that we didn't expect to go so well, that we thought we were in better shape on, and there wasn't much to it. Y'all want to share any of that?
Yeah, I can share one. In particular, it was in the Carolinas some years ago, and I thought we put up a real good defense to win that case, Jeremy, and lo and behold, I mean, we were feeling pretty good at the end of the trial. Trial lasted, what was it, 3 days, 4 days, and then and it was a judge trial. Didn't have a jury, just a judge trial in federal court. And of course, at the end of the trial, the judge says he's got all the information. He said, "We'll call you and let you know what the verdict is."
So it's just up to him. It wasn't a jury.
That's right.
Oh, me.
And
what were they suing us for?
Well,
I know the accident and stuff, but what an amount?
They had a demand amount, yes, and but we didn't think we were at fault. So, and according to the police report, according to the DOT report, they put fault on the other vehicle. And I guess about a month after the trial, we got the verdict back, and didn't go our way. They went their way. And even when you think you're doing your best, through all the information gathering and reconstructionists, expert witnesses, medical experts, and so on, and you still lose.
And that's one reason that I'm assuming we try to keep it from going to trial.
Yeah, I'm going to say 95% of our cases are resolved through mediation, because nobody really wants to go to trial and put their fate in the hands of a jury.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you this one, because this case is closed some years ago. And, we were sitting there picking the jury. And, our attorney got up and he asked the question. And these were people sitting to get selected for the jury. He asked the question, how many of y'all hate truck drivers? And every person in there raised their hand. And man, I really felt bad. I said, really?
Wow.
And one guy didn't raise his hand. Or no, he didn't. So then he asked the question, how many of y'all hate lawyers? All of them raised their hand except for one guy. And he asked the guy, he says, why didn't you raise your hand? He said, I'm a lawyer.
Oh, man.
So, it's, but we settle quite a few of them through mediation, and sometimes we get good results and sometimes not so good. And, it's there again. It's a battle.
Yeah.
There's nothing easy about it. And, the drivers, when you tell them what happened, they can't believe it.
Well,
and
what
I
case
feel
are
for
you
them.
talking about? You said you was going to tell us one that was closed. Is that just it? Just the jury part of it?
Well, that was the jury part. And this is one we won through trial. It was in Dallas, Texas. And Scott Cowden, in operations, he went down there with me to sit through it just to kind of get an eyeball, what takes place. And this was a lane change accident. People got hurt. But
no fatalities, just
no
got injured.
Just injuries. And they were trying to settle for, I don't know, it was $800,000-$900,000, and we put our case on, and they put their case on, and we got and it as well. I think the trial lasted 3 days, and the jury was out for 2 days. We finally got a verdict back on Friday. And the verdict came back, I think it was Friday evening, and they ruled on 4 counts. And, they can pay money on each charge. And the jury ruled 0 money on all 4 counts.
No kidding.
So
it's a good day.
That was a good day, wasn't it?
You bet.
That don't happen very often right there.
No. And, there again, I think I've only been to 8 jury trials, but, just countless,
Yeah.
mediations. I was telling, I think, Dustin the other day that I did a deposition last week, and that was my 39th deposition.
Oh, man.
And
you ought to be getting good at them now.
well, I don't know about good, but because they always come up with different tactics to come at you. So, but
well, that's a we've had conversations before. That's a whole nother world there.
It is
when it gets into the attorneys and fighting each case, and I mean it's just a whole nother world that we're into over an accident.
Yeah.
Well,
it's when the work starts on our end.
And it drags out for a long time.
Oh yeah, I've had them go up to 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me throw this one at you here because I was thinking about this, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I'm thinking of one of our guys has an accident, and it's debatable whether it's his fault or not. How long, because I know what's going through their mind is, am I terminated?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make that decision of when they're terminated and how quick, you know what I mean? Because I know they're wanting to know, sure.
Well, there again, Jeremy, through the investigation takes time. Some of them do. Some of them are pretty quick to figure out. If the guy, rear ends someone at 60 mile an hour and he's on his phone and we can see it in the video that he wasn't paying attention, that's pretty much an automatic out.
Yeah, it's a done.
But now if he's driving along and somebody cuts in front of him and brakes checks him and he tags him, that's a different story.
Okay.
So it's case by case. I mean,
Just a matter of,
it's
and his history's got a little something to do with that,
true.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Now, of course, here, you have a minor accident, you're on probation for 3 years, you have another one that you're at fault at, and it's automatic out.
Right.
And, probably, the more severe the accident is, probably the quicker the punishment.
Yeah.
And I don't relish terminating guys over accidents.
No, but you have to, you have to make a decision fairly quick to, let the guy decide what he's going to do, because this case may drag out. We may not, it may drag out for years, but we got to make a decision based on what we know at that time, I guess, whether to keep the guy on or not, because in our mind, the thing that's going through our mind is, what if he has another one?
There you go.
And
that's when you get tagged for negligent retention.
Yeah.
And that's a multiplier. So
they kind of hit on that point too, Jeremy. If they are terminated, if Roger kind of reviews everything and he finds that the driver needs to be terminated, even though he's no longer with us, he's still going to be involved in the accident. So there's still going to be, Roger can probably hit on this more, but depositions for the driver. So we'll still meet up with them, counsel him. Our defense attorney will be representing him as well. So even though he might not be leased to Oakley Trucking, we're still kind of in that accident together, and we still need to work together. It doesn't just go away. No, sir.
Yeah.
No, because when we're served a summons or a suit, that driver's the first name on the suit. And then it's and Oakley Trucking.
Okay.
So yes, he's gonna be in touch with us. We're gonna be talking to him, throughout the whole ordeal. They're gonna get served papers, and then usually that's when they really get excited now, because they've served them.
Yeah.
And they're calling me. What do we do?
Yeah.
And
now it's done got personal now.
Oh yeah, that's an eye opener.
Yeah.
But
now, get this question, and you may, Barnett, probably get this question a lot, is their escrow.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking their escrow as soon as it happens. Is that right?
So we can issue a hold on their escrow account. So $3,500 for dumps and hoppers and $5,000 for the tanks. If there's still some investigations not really clear on fault, then we can go ahead and initiate that escrow hold. A driver will never be issued an escrow hold without getting a phone call first. You'll be getting a call from me or someone else in the safety department explaining that as far as it's accident related.
Because they're going to see that they're really, probably what the owner operator is going to see is they got another 175 coming out.
Yep.
And they didn't expect that.
Yep.
But, they should have an accident. And this is even if it's not their fault, right?
Right.
Most of the time. Oh, I guess not all the time.
Well,
case by case.
Case by case.
But
to be determined.
Yeah, just because of the stuff we've been talking about, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Over a quarter-sized dent in a bumper turns into $40,000. Well, so I think our owner operation, you probably go over this in orientation, but our guys, they need to know, if they don't know, that their escrow is part of the deductible. Oakley Trucking has a $250,000 deductible per accident.
Correct.
Yeah. So we have what's considered a self-insured retention policy. So anything up to $250,000, Oakley is responsible to pay out of pocket for. And that includes physical damage, bodily injury, or expenses.
Anything. So I that hits home to me. That should hit home with a bunch of guys is, we get your escrow first, yes, but anything over that, Oakley Trucking's paying out of pocket up to $250,000. And can you imagine, if having that insurance on 870 owner operators out there driving right now up and down the road, and potentially those accidents, and you have that kind of deductible, that would be that's tough to sleep at night sometimes.
Let's just hope they all don't crash in one day.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, hope none of it happens. So,
Sure.
But I feel like that's information they need to know, even though we tell them that in orientation. I mean, that's that goes back to a lot of also trying to resolve the situation as soon as you can too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, good stuff, man. What else you think we missed? I know we've gone a long time today, but I felt like accidents is really important to discuss with our owner operators and get them to understand what they need to do when an accident happens, because we rely on them a lot. It's what they do at the scene of that accident can result in good or bad things later down the road, right?
Yep.
Right. And like I say, it's just basic retaining information. I mean, we're not asking them to do anything. I mean, it's just, like I said, if you can get me their name and phone number, that's the biggest plus I can get.
Okay. That's simple enough. I think they'll be able to get that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How we doing this week? We clear of accidents this week?
Well,
I think, I don't think we've had anything major.
Good.
So, that's always
last
a
week
plus.
was a busy week, but yeah, this week's been pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, we do have a lot of good hands out there, and it could be a lot worse. But when you look at overall the miles that we travel in a year, and then when you figure out our accident ratio, it's like at 0.35. I mean,
That's well below the national average, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
So, like I said,
Well, hats off to our guys.
you bet.
Yeah.
You bet. And guys, if you're ever involved in an accident, like I say, you can always call, and we're going to help you through the whole ordeal. But you just got to keep in mind that you're in the boat with us. You're paddling just like we are. So,
Well, I think that's good for them to remember. I mean, it's their truck, it's our trailer, and we're in this accident together.
Yeah.
So we need to do the best we can to resolve it.
Yeah, and I just hope our owner operators can rest assured a little bit, knowing that we have a lot of experience with Mr. Carson there, with all the claims that he's handled, and a lot of talent in the safety department. So if you are involved in an accident, we're here for you. Just don't think you're going to be left alone or not really know what to do. We have process in place, and we'll make sure that we get through it together.
Sounds good. All right. Anything else you guys need to add? We good?
now I appreciate you having us on, letting us, speak today.
Yeah.
It's been a great
good.
time. I
think it'd be
appreciate
good.
it.
You bet. I appreciate you guys hanging in there, and appreciate you owner operators here at Oakley Trucking that's working for us every day out there, and you representing us well. We appreciate it, everything you do. Call us if you got any questions about this episode or any other ones. Give a safety department call, Dustin Barnett or Roger Carson, and we'll be glad to answer your questions the best we can. And until next time, we'll talk to you next week. Appreciate you. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Oakley Podcast, Trucking, Business, and Family. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate or review the show in the podcast platform of your choice and share it with a friend. We love hearing from our audience, so if you've got a question, comment, or just want to say hello, head over to our website, theoakleypodcast.com, and click the Leave a Comment button. We'll get you a response soon and may even share some of the best ones here on the show. We'll be back with a fresh episode very soon. Thanks for listening.